both you hear from our delegation, but more importantly, from us to hear of the people's representatives here in Augusta. As the acting chair of our delegation, I just want to welcome everyone. We have a new year. Hope you had a blessed Christmas and a happy new year, and we're all ready to get to work. I did want to take just a moment and introduce a couple of our members. First off, our returning members, Representative Gloria Frazier, Senator Harold Jones, Senator Max Burns, Representative Brian Prince, and then our two newest representatives-elect who are ready to get sworn in this coming Monday is Representative-elect Carlton Howard. Good morning, sir. And Representative-elect Lynn Gladney. So we look forward to having some dedicated members on our delegation all working together. I'm pleased to work with everyone and looking forward to it in this coming year. Also, a very special welcome to both the Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioner Garrett, and then very exciting about our new mayor just taking office and after being sworn in is Mayor Johnson. And at this point, I'm going to turn the remainder of the meeting. We're shooting for about 60 minutes of your time for us to get started and have this be an initial conversation that we expect it to be able to repeat whenever needed when things come up. So I look forward to hearing from everyone as one of the members of the delegation. So Mayor, congratulations and welcome, and the meeting is yours.
Thank you so much, Chairman Newton, and to the delegation. Thank you guys so much for making the time to be with us today on this horrific day as it relates to weather. First, let me welcome my colleagues, Mayor Pro Tem Brandon Garrett, as you mentioned earlier, Commissioner Jordan Johnson, Commissioner McKnight, Commissioner Al Mason, newly elected Commissioner Stacy Pulliam, and I think that's everybody. But today's very important as we have a discussion about, one, how we move this region forward as we enter the Georgia State Legislation session that starts here next week. Have a great team here that's been assembled by Administrator Takia Dowse. Thank you so much for sharing your conference room, and thank you so much for helping put this agenda together. And with that said, I'm going to turn it over to her because she's going to take us through our legislative overview. Many of these items are so important to our region, and we're excited about at least starting a conversation today about how we can get them achieved. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. And again, good afternoon to the Augusta Commission, as well as our local delegation, and welcome guests, as well as our department heads. Thank you all for availing your time. Our 2022 legislative session was indeed productive, and so we are equally as excited about what 2023 has to hold. Just as a brief overview, some of the things that occurred that benefit Augusta would be House 594 grants temporary tax relief to properties damaged or destroyed by natural disaster through constitutional amendment that would be voted on by citizens, as well as a Senate Bill 505, which requires 911 communication officers to receive training to deliver high quality telephone instructions for CPR. This information will have some impact on our 911 budget, but we are already prepared to ensure that our representatives from 911 in those call centers are well equipped to perform the necessary services, as well as House Bill 1013, which is the Mental Health Parity Act. This particular act will expand mental health and substance abuse care for Georgians. While we know that mental health is a top priority, it also bleeds over into homelessness. I'm sure that's something that we will continue to talk about throughout the year, as well as within this discussion. I want to make certain that you all are aware of our representative who will be speaking on behalf of Augusta in Atlanta during session this year, and that is Ms. Marcy Rubinson. She represents Holland and Knight. She was unable to join us at this immediate hour, but hopefully if there is time after her conflicting appointment, she will be able to jump on the call. But I did want to make sure that for those of you that are unaware, Marcy Rubinson may be tapping you on the shoulder for Augusta's benefit, because we do consider her a partner with us at the Capitol. Now, as we jump into 2023, the 2023 legislative session will begin on Monday, January 9th, and will last for 40 legislative days. As we all know, Governor Kemp remains in office for his second term. And while both the Senate While both the House and the Senate have new leadership, the Speaker is former House Majority Leader John Burns from Effingham County, and the new Lieutenant Governor is former State Senator Burt Jones. Because of new leadership in both the House, because of new leadership in both chambers, neither the House nor the Senate have formally presented their legislative priorities for the upcoming season. The governor has indicated that his priorities will include measures to enhance public safety, a state income tax cut, and a priority tax credit modeled after the homeowners tax relief grant that was phased out in 2008. State revenue collections and estimates remain strong, which is of course a direct benefit to Augusta's financial position, which will go towards funding the proposed tax cuts that the governor has already publicly mentioned. While the governor has not specified the public safety measures that he will propose, he has publicly expressed his frustration with local prosecutors in the wake of violent crime. We've all heard reports, we've all seen the news and seen the media reports that Augusta is unfortunately also plagued with some of those crime-laden communities. But at the same time, more information about his proposed legislative priorities will be released over the coming weeks, in which we will all make certain that we are aware of. Now, this is a controversial topic, but one I will state nonetheless. Although I am not a Dogs fan, I will make certain to root for the home team root for the home team. But the first week of session will be slightly changed in wake of UGA's participation in the national championship. So go Dogs. But the governor's inauguration will be on January 12th. And the legislature will be in adjournment the week of January 16th for appropriations hearings, and will likely resume on January 23rd.
Thank you so much, Administrator Dowse. Now we're going to have a discussion about our legislative priorities for 2023. Of course, this session is going to be unique in that I've learned that almost, if not more than, a third of the new legislators are actually freshman legislators. So certainly trying to identify priorities will be a challenge in the direction of the session. But we have identified 4 items that we want to open up for discussion. The first being CSPLOS, trying to create a referendum to, of course, get a new James Brown Arena to present to the voters of Augusta, Richmond County. The second being the impact fee waiver for affordable housing, which is vitally important. The third is Affordable Housing Trust Fund. And the third is an LMIG program funding. 2 of these are being led by ACCG as well as GMA. With that said, I think one of the most probably popular topics is the CSPLOS topic. So let's just open up, I guess, an avenue of discussion to see what our strategy would be and what your ideas are for let's see how we can move that forward.
And Mayor Johnson, I also wanted to point out that we have Mr. Cedric Johnson as well as Brad Usry on the call with us today in the event that they would like to chime in and have words as well.
That'd be awesome. Cedric, Brad, you guys have any introductory words regarding this priority regarding our CSPLOS?
Brad, I will let you go first, if you don't mind.
Great. Thank you, Cedric. Thank you guys for including us in this conversation. First of all, what we need is we have the referendum ready to go before the legislatures and the Senate. And what we need for Mark to just be direct with this, we need him to carry it for us and get it introduced in the legislature. And we also need for Senator Barnes to carry it in the Senate. I hadn't had a chance to talk to Representative Newton, but I talked to Senator Barnes yesterday. Right. But anyway, that's kind of in a nutshell what we need. We got Marcy already working on this and to push it through once we get it introduced. And really, we're starting on the Bell Auditorium too to get us some momentum and as far as the voters. And I like to say we're not asking for a tax increase. We're asking the voters to vote on a 0.5-cent sales tax so we can get moving forward with this new arena, which we figure is a big part of Augusta's future.
I would like to thank the commission and the mayor for putting us on the list. that's important to us to be on that list and to be a priority on your list. And also, I want to thank Senator Burns and Representative Newton for their support. We started with some momentum last year because of their support and push, and we hope to continue to go forward. Want to thank the legislative delegation for what they've done too, and also helping us try to take this forward. I don't want to just start naming names because I am going to miss somebody. But again, this is very important to us. It's very important to the community. We're looking at a building that's almost 40 years old. It's functionally obsolete. And if we want to stay in the arena business, we are going to have a new arena. And we're going to need your support and help to get that done. One of the things that people have asked us, and I don't want to take too long, is are there any other sources of funding? And the answer to that is yes. Oakview, who now is our new manager, has pledged dollars. And just for the James Brown Arena alone, they pledged $1 million. We don't know exactly what that's going to be for the bill, but I can tell you, and Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking for the arena that they did in Savannah, it was close to maybe $3 or $4 million that they put in it. So we are looking at those other revenue sources. Plus, we are also planning to have a per ticket charge anywhere from $2 to $3. That ticket charge is going to go straight to debt service to reduce that debt. And any type of naming rights that we can have, like right now we have the BMW room. We'll have another quality venue within the arena that we will also have somebody sponsor. And so we're looking at doing as many things that we can do in our own control to pay this SPLOS off as soon as possible.
Mr. Johnson, if you don't mind, for some of the newest members of this commission, can you just bring us up to speed as to your plans for the bill and what kind of timeline you're on as we move forward, perhaps with this CSPOS?
Yes. Well, the timeline is if everything works, hopefully the way we plan it through the legislative process, then we'll look at having it on a November ballot. That the citizens get the opportunity to vote whether they want the 0.5% sales tax or not. Then if that passed, and HB, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the first quarter of 24, then we will be ready to start with the new building.
And can I just top that off, Mayor Johnson, is the bail, I don't know if you were asking for the bail. Cedric was telling you about the timeline for the new arena once we're funded. But the Bell Auditorium, we'll be starting on April 1st with construction. That will be everything on the exterior. We'll actually start interior construction on July 1, and we should be back in operation completely 100% at the Bell with new renovations of the Bell in about 15 months after that. So the fall of 24.
Okay, that's great to know. At this point, I'd like to open up to my colleagues on the commission. Are there any questions or concerns?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Mason. First of all, good morning to everyone. Also grateful for a happy new year and moving on in the right direction. Thank you, Cedric and Brad, for giving us a little more information. But this question is actually for Representative Newton. And so knowing what we know and the strategy that was used the last time, I'm wondering what is your strategy, or how do you feel about whether or not this can move through legislation and get signed?
You're muted.
You're muted, Brad.
Sorry. I think the commission's decision to have a representative in Atlanta, a paid consultant who's familiar, and Marcy Rubinson, she's been very helpful in speeding up the communication process we did introduce this last year after crossover day. By the time everything was together for a tax increase, theoretically, even though it's one voter's vote on, it didn't make it before crossover day. It was great to get the conversation started, and Brad and Cedric were excellent with the team that came down to present it to my subcommittee on Ways and Means. I do look forward to getting this before the voters of Augusta. And that's the way we do that is obviously to introduce it most likely in Ways and Means in the House, and then travel over to the Senate with Senator Burns to carry it. I believe we have some good possibility on getting this done. I appreciate the work that went on, and there was some behind the scenes work to try to get some potentially hotel motel, or at least the ticket funding, in particular because Augusta being on the border, the beneficiaries will be people who live out of the county in Georgia. And even more, they're going to be people who live outside of Georgia itself, and they're the beneficiaries. So getting a ticket fee is a portion of the way to do it, lowering from 1% to 0.5% so that we're not the highest sales tax in Georgia. I think we made some great progress working together. I look forward to getting it started. Frankly, I'll get it started a little bit today at a Ways and Means pre-session meeting. And I hope we'll all work together, but I think this is bipartisan.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions for my colleagues on the commission?
I want to tell Representative Newton too that Cedric and I are committed with the less than 24 hours. We appreciate 24-hour notice. We'll be in Atlanta if we need to be for anything as far as meetings, so we can be in person. So we're committed to be there if necessary. And the second thing is, the good thing about sales tax, upwards north of 35% of that is paid for people outside of Richmond County, which is great. So again, hopefully we can get us moved forward, and Cedric and I are committed. If we need to be in Atlanta, we'll be there. So, but thank y'all. Thanks all.
Thank you. Representative Brian Prince, I see you have your hand raised, sir. We'd like to acknowledge you.
Hey, thank you for having me on. And just on that subject, I know we've tried this before, and the vote, I don't think we had enough votes. Is that correct?
It was.
Commissioner, you're talking about the referendum that was voted on? Yeah.
And my question becomes then, in November, if things go well, we get it on the ballot in November. Is there anything else that and not per se right here, but is there anything that's going to draw folks out to vote on that in November? And that's the concern.
Well, one of the things, Representative Prince, that we're talking about now, and we're in the process of having a campaign to educate people on the need we have for a New Bella auditorium to get information out. The last time was kind of a short time frame for us to try to get that information out. And the other part of it, we misestimated how upset people would be about putting more tax on their home. So we're not going that route this time, I think, which would help us tremendously. We heard what the voters said, and so that's why we're doing the things that we're doing now to try to get around that. But to get back to your question, yeah, we are going to do more education. We're going to do more outreach in the communities and make sure people understand exactly how we're going to pay for it and why we need a new arena.
And great. And listen, I look forward to supporting that. And I think that's very important, especially when, as you guys know, people, they see what they see and they hear what they hear. Just coming off of the assessment, the tax assessments that went out, being a lot higher than folks thought they should be. Again, all that, I think all that plays into the mindset. So let's just make sure we, do whatever we need to do to push the ball over. Thanks.
Yeah, Representative, you're correct. Our timing was not good at all. So we're going to try to make sure it's better this time, and we're going to try to make sure we do it the right way.
Mr. Johnson, in addition to the education that you're planning in the community for the Coliseum, do you have a marketing plan to ensure the public is aware of the proposed changes for the Bell Auditorium? I think that would breed some excitement.
Yes, ma'am, we do. At the point in time, we are ready to break ground. And I think Brad mentioned that date. I don't want to put it back out there because I'm not sure, but we will have an official kickoff with the mayor and commissioners and all the delegations to be there to do that. As we go forward with that program, one of the things that we have committed as an authority is to make sure we have local and minority participation. Right now, based on the company, the companies that we have working for us, it's going to almost be 100% local and right at about 30 to 35% or better minority participation in this project, which is a goal that we are very proud of, that we can use local contractors and architects to get this done, and minority contractors to get this done. So we're very proud of that, and we want to advertise the fact that for this project on the Bell Auditorium, it's going to be basically almost 100% local.
Can I tag on to you here, Cedric, if you guys don't mind? With the marketing plan we've already got from our management team, we're willing to put in 100,000 plus to create the plan here locally with a marketing firm. And also, just the other day, one of the heads of one of the media groups here in Augusta, I can't say who, but he pledged $150,000 in advertising money for us to use to promote the new arena boat. So there's a lot of support in the community. I can tell you that. Just they're putting the money where their mouth is on this thing.
And Brad, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. You know, we talked about the delegation, and when I say that, we need the total delegation. Representative Prince and Representative Howard, Representative Frazier. I know I'm going to miss somebody, but we need the total delegation support on getting this done.
And Cedric, I can't speak for all my colleagues, but I think I can, and I am, rather. But listen, we plan on supporting this thing, but all thing we ask, and at least I ask, is that you guys keep us in the loop. You know, last time we start feeling some kind of way about you guys being up there, and everybody didn't know what was going on, but we understand that's past us. So let's go ahead and push this thing forward and just keep us in the loop and let us know what we can do to help influence this to make it go through.
And Representative Prince, I apologize for that. One of the things we've done this, and we'll make sure that we try to do it, especially when y'all not in session, but we've had meetings with the commission as we had made certain milestones, and we'll do the same thing with a legislative delegation. We'll keep y'all informed, which will be about every 3 months or so. If not in writing or Zoom call, we'll let you know where we are, because the thing that Brad and I have pride ourselves in making sure that we've been transparent. Again, if you look at our site, you will see all our information on the site. We, you know, in our meetings and everything, we talk about whatever we do. So, and Representative Gladney, I see you. I didn't want to leave you out, but yeah, we need the total delegation to help us. Representative Frazier, I see you just come on. So we need all of you helping us to make this become a reality.
We'd like to welcome our city's, our lobbyists. Marcy, are you on board?
Yes, I'm on. I apologize for being late. It's a week of fundraisers and meetings and events, but I'm really looking forward to representing the city and working with the delegation on the legislative priorities that the commission has or will shortly adopt.
Thank you so much. I think we have a couple of people that have their hands raised. Commissioner Johnson, I'm gonna go to you first, sir, please.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson, Mr. Cedric Johnson, all these Johnsons on the line. It's a great last name to have, seems like it. But anyhow, thank you all for this meeting. It's been very informative so far. Just a quick question. I know last time when we went this route, we all got out and we stomped forward, and in our hearts we believed it was the right thing to do. One of the biggest concerns that folks had was the layover time from where shows would be able to be held at the JBA. And so I have that same question as far as the bill is concerned. Brad, I believe you said that construction on the bill will begin sometime this summer. If the referendum passes in November and we begin the JBA project in first quarter of 24, number one, will we be able to still use the Bell Auditorium during this process, even though it's going to be going during the construction period? And then how would this also work out with the James Brown Arena? And I only ask that because we got a lot of folks last time around concerned about their ability to go to shows. And so we know that the bill is going to be going under renovations. Will shows be affected by that? And then when the JBA is in motion, how will shows play into both of those projects going on? From what in my mind, it's going to be simultaneously.
But I can fill you in on that. So, Commissioner Johnson, the bell will go while it's dark for a little while. I think it's going to be dark for 9 months, and then the JBA construction will not start till the bell is back in operation. But the JBA will be down for it's 30 months if my timeline is right. But the bell will be operating the whole time during that. A lot of the staging for the JBA, the beginning of the construction will be exterior, so it'll still be operating. But they both will not be shut down at the same time, no.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Next, we want to recognize Senator Max Burns.
Mayor Johnson, thank you for the delegation and the commission to have this joint meeting. I appreciate it. I think, and like I believe Representative Prince said, I think the delegation is comfortable with what the city is proposing. I believe we can support that. I talked with Brad yesterday about it. I talked with Marcy yesterday about it. I talked with Lieutenant Governor's office this morning about it. So we need to prepare the legislature to act positively on this issue. And when Mark gets back, he's in town, I'm in town, but when we get a chance, we'll run the traps on both the House and the Senate side and make sure the governor feels comfortable. I do appreciate, Brad, you and Cedric's willingness to join us. We may need you to do that. We'll get with Marcy and kind of coordinate those opportunities. But at the end of the day, we probably need some of your direct input, and certainly any of the commissioners or any of the members who are directly involved are welcome to be a participant in that. But we don't get many bites at the apple, and so we need to make sure that this bite is a successful one. So I appreciate your leadership, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Senator Burns. Are there any additional questions before we move on to the next legislative priority for 2023? Representative Newton.
Oh, yes. I just wanted to echo what Senator Burns said. And I don't want to confuse anybody. This is a heavy lift, both locally and in Atlanta, in a Republican majority subcommittee, committee, House floor, and Senate. A tax increase is not the, it doesn't start off with a head of steam, let's say. But I believe this one is so carefully crafted and so well done locally, and the need is so great. If anyone looks at the current arena and compared to the importance of Augusta in all of Georgia, I think it's clear. I think the plan is ambitious but also very doable. So I'm looking forward to getting that through. I would say I'd like our whole delegation at the subcommittee meeting. We're required to have 2 subcommittee meetings before a bill like this could pass even subcommittee. Then it goes to the full committee, then to the Rules Committee, and then the House floor. And we have representation on all those, but we'll need to all work together. And in addition to Brad and Cedric and possibly you, Mayor Pro Tem, other commissioners, I think to get the message through, and this is where Marcy comes in so valuable, is knowing when these are and getting this communication down to everybody to be at that first subcommittee meeting, the second subcommittee meeting, and give this a head of steam. I think it is a well thought out, well done plan, and I applaud those who've been working on it and working with the commission on it. But I think we can get this done. But then I got to say, then comes the hard work, which is the local marketing plan. That is exciting that there's entities that are willing to help fund that marketing plan that will be required before November, and for people to realize how much of this arena will be paid for by people outside of Augusta, Richmond County. So I think there's a clear couple of heavy lifts that are coming in this, but it's a rare opportunity to make a 40-year difference in your community. And I look forward to working on it with Marcy and everyone there.
Thank you so much, Representative. Now I'd like to recognize Representative Gloria Frazier.
Thank you. And thank you too for having this meeting also, Mayor and all the delegation members. I just like to say Happy New Year to everyone. I actually would like to know who the legislative liaison, I hear the name Marcy. I've heard her name, but I've never met her. Just like to know who she is and actually what her role will be. Also, I'm very concerned, and I have had these conversations for the last couple of years with Cedric as it relates to minority participation. I hear that 35% is out there, but we got to make sure that everybody that can and that is bonded and certified here in the Augusta area will be able to benefit from this huge project that we have been trying to get done we've been talking about it for the last 5 years. And so I'm also interested in the marketing plan, because I would like for someone to just share with me, what are we going to do different than what we did last time we put this on the ballot to ensure that the voters understand the tax dollars and where they're coming from. So what are we going to do different to make sure we can promote this where it can pay us? Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Representative Frazier. Now, for the sake of time, as I promised you guys, we would be out of here within the hour. We're going to move on to the next couple of priorities that we have, and I'm going to turn it over now to Administrator Dowse to take us through those. And just keep in mind, we can continue to have these conversations as we need to, but for the sake of time, we're going to move forward.
Thank you, Mayor Johnson. And if you would, if your electronic hand is raised, please lower it now so we can make sure we acknowledge you at the appropriate time. Our next two matters relate to affordable housing. The first is...
Excuse me. My hand is still up because am I going to get an answer now? Am I going to have to wait?
Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Frazier. Rephrase your question, please.
As it relates to the marketing plan, what are we going to do different than we did last time to promote this arena, to make sure that the folks in Augusta, Georgia know how important it is and how we can get it passed?
You got it.
I'll address that, if Cedric, if you like.
Go right ahead, Brad.
We have already, in the other one, everything happened at last minute as far as the funding. So we didn't have the opportunity to organize a marketing plan. We've already budgeted money for a marketing plan, and we've engaged our management company, and we're going to engage a local marketing company in the next couple of weeks to put together a plan, which we'll share with you guys if you'd like to. We'd be happy to, and proudly share it with you. And then, like I said, we've already got one media group in Augusta committed $150,000 in advertising money once we have our plan together. So we're organized, I guess is the best answer to what you said. And we weren't last time. We're excited about this plan versus the property tax plan. We think we have a better sell with this.
I appreciate that, because you also understand that we as legislators, we also have to push this in our respective districts. So I just wanted to know what the plan is so that we can all be on the same accord as we go out to promote this. Thank you.
We hear you loud and clear, I promise.
Thank you so much, Representative Frazier. Mr. Johnson, Cedric Johnson, do you have another?
Just the fact that we will get out in the communities and get out in your districts, and hopefully you'll come with us as we talk to the different organizations, neighborhood alliances, and those type things to make sure that they see us and get the information.
Thank you so much. Before we move forward, I just want to acknowledge the new commissioner, Tony Lewis, has joined us as well. Welcome, Commissioner. Madam Administrator.
And Representative Frazier, one of your additional asks was to introduce Marcy Rubinson. Ms. Rubinson, will you please raise your hand? She is Augusta's representative with Holland and Knight, who will be representing us at the Capitol during your legislative session. Ms. Rubinson, would you like to say a few words and introduce yourself to the group?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. I am very much looking forward to representing Augusta Richmond at the Capitol this session. I've met with most of the delegation and Representative Frazier. I'll come back by again and sit down with you and go through Augusta's priorities and make sure that you have all of my contact information so that if you have any questions or concerns about any of the priorities that Augusta is going to be working on this session, that I'll be working on behalf of Augusta this session, you'll be able to get in contact with me, as will every member of the delegation. I had over a decade of experience working with the Georgia Municipal Association, so I have a very strong background in municipal and local government policy. So, and I've got a lot of experience working with the legislature on municipal issues, including tax issues and zoning issues and public safety issues. So not only do I bring a political expertise to this, but I also have some significant policy experience. Every member of the commission and of the delegation should feel free to contact me at whatever point with any questions or comments or recommendations. And I do look forward to working with everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Rubinson. And now, as Mayor Johnson stated earlier, we will go on to items number 2 and 3, which both relate to affordable housing. The first is an impact fee waiver for affordable housing. We are requesting an amendment to state law to authorize local governments to waive or reduce impact fees for workforce housing development. And the second is pertaining to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We are asking support in increasing the state's Affordable Housing Trust Fund from the existing $3 million appropriation. Here with us today, we have Hawthorne Welcher, who is our Housing and Community Development Director, who is our resident expert concerning affordable housing as well as development. So Mr. Welcher, can you please speak to how both of these two pieces of legislation and support from our delegation and commission would aid Augusta?
Thank you, Madam Administrator. Good afternoon, everyone. So Housing and Community Development Department Director. From the standpoint of Augusta, Georgia in itself is an entitlement city to participating jurisdiction, which basically means that based on population and other factors on any given year, Augusta, Georgia receives a direct allocation of federal funding across really 4 main programs. One specific to workforce housing and affordable housing is Home Investment Partnership Fund, which was enacted by Congress back in 1992. Based on that, this is funding that Augusta, Georgia on an annual basis over the years received about a little over $1 million to be able to do one thing, and that is to provide and develop through partnerships and to forward affordable housing units. Now, if you look at based on what we're talking about, the waiving of fees, that speaks to workforce housing. Then you start talking about affordable housing trust fund increasing that appropriation. I think at the end of the day, when you start talking about it from a sales pitch perspective, affordable housing in our world is anywhere from a sales price of about $85,000 to about $140,000, and then workforce housing goes to about $140,000 up to about $190,000. So based on that, there are several things that we sort of have in play already. Of course, from a standpoint of being able to provide and fill gaps on back end, we're able to provide down payment and closing costs. In a lot of different aspects, we're able to provide up to $25,000. So if a house is selling for $145,000 based on a person's income and their credit, they can qualify for $120,000, then we're able to provide a $25,000. So they're in a house that's worth $145,000, but their payments are based on $120,000, so they have instant equity pretty much starting at year 5 and year 6. Any instrument that we can actually have, also you have to our disposal. Currently, we have what is called an enterprise zone. City of Augusta currently has 3 or 4 different enterprise zones that are actually enacted, which sort of help from a property tax perspective. But when you look at the waiving of fees, and you also look at increasing a trust fund, it does several things. It makes our diversifies our portfolio when we start talking about those attributes, those tools that's necessary for us to be able to provide affordable housing. The waiving of the fees, Augusta, Georgia, is a little different than some cities from that standpoint. It's not necessarily in conversation and in tandem with planning and development. When you look at development, a lot of your large developments that are done really multifamily wise You had the developers who, for the most part, they infuse the infrastructure and the street lights, and at the end of the day, those fees are sort of cast over to the homeowners. But what we're asking for from a waiving of fee perspective to make that decision locally, and what we're also asking for from a trust fund perspective is to just have these tools at our disposal based on various conversations that we have with various developers, which I have every day, whether it's in a single family scattered site perspective, or whether it's in a 2 to 3 acre or 5 acre multi-family development perspective. Having these tools at our disposal when necessary allows us to be advantageous and allows us to sort of enter this deal with more confidence, knowing that we're truly being sure that we are increasing the demand, meeting demand, increasing the volume of affordable and workforce housing when it goes to Richmond County.
With that being said, I'd like to open up the floor for discussions or questions. Should any of my colleagues on the commission or the legislative delegation have any? Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, sir. This question is for our delegation. I know that we've sort of made an ask about affordable housing from the commission, but I'm curious to know what is the pulse up in Atlanta where housing policies are concerned. We know that a lot of the cost for housing is absorbed through the developer. They are required to do X, and some of those costs are then translated to the buyer. So what is the pulse in Atlanta where affordable housing is concerned? I know things like inclusionary zoning ordinances locally have always been sort of challenged. Rent control measures have always sort of been frowned upon. So I'm just interested in knowing what the conversation that Director Welcher is bringing to us, which is a great one. What is the general pulse at the state capitol where housing is concerned? Because I'm sure that this is something that we're feeling all across the state, the rising cost of not only just rent, but just buying homes in general. So what is the pulse in Atlanta where housing is concerned? And then what the director is speaking on, should we have hope that something can get done in these directions?
Sure.
Maybe Senator Burns or Representative Newton. I'm not sure who can answer, but someone.
I know Representative Newton is driving, so Representative Senator Burns.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. Actually, Marcy may have a better sense of the pulse. Commissioner Johnson, it's a tough challenge, and I acknowledge the fact that we've got real issues with affordable housing across our state. Local jurisdictions have taken different approaches. I don't have a sense right now that this is going to be a priority issue for this legislative session. I haven't seen that yet. I'll ask my colleagues, in the House, and maybe Senator Jones can jump in and help us. But I haven't seen a lot of statewide initiatives along this line. I'm aware that certainly the city of Atlanta has taken some unique steps that might be appropriate or might not be appropriate, but I recognize the challenge, and I'm open to suggestions and recommendations.
Yes, sir, and thank you for that, because I really just want to just throw it out here, because I know this is something that we've all been working on, and please excuse my voice here, I'm sorry. When we're talking about housing, we've always got to make sure that we're including this conversation about homelessness, because dollars aren't always readily available where homelessness is concerned. When we talk about housing and access to housing, mental health is also something that we have to make sure that we're keeping into consideration for our homeless brothers and sisters, and not just our homeless brothers and sisters. We're talking about folks who are just looking for access for quality housing every day. There's always some type of barrier. And so I want to just throw that out there just for consideration, just for conversation, because in our attempts to make housing more affordable for the working person, for the everyday person, perhaps someone coming out of college or just graduating or entering into the next phase of their lives, we have to keep in our minds that there's still a segment of our population, especially here in Richmond County, that would not have access to quality housing because of mental health or because of income, because of substance abuse, those types of things. And I think that having the resources locally to address those issues would absolutely be helpful. I know there was a Senate study committee that laid out recommendations on how we can address homelessness in our counties. And so I just want to throw that out there just for food for thought. I know we won't be able to get into a deep conversation about it this morning, But certainly it's something that's a concern of mine, and I hope that we can share that concern moving forward.
There was a study committee, as you pointed out, and they made certain recommendations. And Marcy, you might be able to help me understand what happened with those that preceded a little bit of my time, or maybe Representative Prince or others could give us a bit of an update. The reality is we have not effectively addressed the need for affordable housing across our state.
Thank you, sir.
And that's regrettable, and I think we have to address that issue.
And this is an issue, access to affordable housing is an issue in all of the mid-size and large cities around the state. And the House and the Senate last session made some significant changes to access to mental health care that hopefully will begin to identify and start getting funding and services in place for the portion of the population that's homeless due to mental health issues. One of the thoughts about the legislative proposal that Augusta is bringing forward is that by reducing some of the regulatory cost on developers, the impact fees, by allowing a city to waive those, that's going to incentivize developers to include some affordable housing stock when they're doing other developments, or encourage them to build affordable housing buildings or projects. So that was the thought about doing this, rather than requiring any kind of rent control or inclusionary zoning, which would probably be done at the city level anyways, or just coming out and asking the state for money. By doing this incentive for developers to reduce their costs, that might help increase affordable housing stock locally.
Thank you, Marcy, so much for that information. Now, for the second time, we're going to move forward. We got one more legislative priority that we want to cover with the group.
Thank Ms. Gladney. Representative Gladney has a hand up, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Oh, there she is. Representative Gladney, my apologies. I was looking down.
Yeah, I know I'm really tall, right?
Okay. It's kind of hard for me to see. I'm sitting at the back of the room here. My spectacles aren't that clear. So please come on. My apologies.
I just wanted to offer some feedback to Commissioner Jordan's comment. I was doing some reading on some other initiatives on the federal level. President Biden has offered a response on a federal level to some homelessness types of programs. They may not have funneled down yet to state or federal levels. But as I continue to get information about, so there's a program right now, an initiative that is the Housing Supply Action Plan that the Biden administration is working on. I don't know that it's been completely funded. You may have received some of this information. As it continues to work through, and if it is funded, and if there are some other initiatives that spin out of this program, I'll make sure that I'll disseminate that information. It may offer some funding sources that we may be able to either apply for some grants or some other types of local initiatives that we may be able to access from this program. So I'll forward you this information, Jordan. I know that you're working on the homeless task force, and it may be something that the commission can kind of keep their eyes on to see if there's something that we can access from that.
Thank you, Representative Gladney, for providing that information. All right, Madam Administrator.
Thank you. So the next matter concerns LMIG program funding, which luckily for us, this is a priority also slated by ACCG. So our local delegation, we're asking you to kind of piggyback and just offer some additional support concerning this. The Local Maintenance and Improvement Grant, also known as LMIG, is Augusta's and also the Department of Transportation, funding structure for all transportation matters. This funding is critical to maintaining transportation network, particularly for our area. We are asking you to oppose any changes that would reduce the current county funding or reduce proportionate share of grant funding. Again, this is critical to maintaining Georgia's transportation network. With LMIG funds tied to the state motor vehicle fuel excise tax and motor fuel tax funded programs, it will be greatly impacted. So your support is paramount in ensuring that this program remains intact. Again, this is a ACCG priority, so there are many other legislators across the state that are also in support of it. Should you have any questions, we have John Urshry, who represents our engineering and traffic division, that's on the call today.
Mr. Urshry, is there anything you need to add before we open it up for a couple of questions?
Thank you so much for the invitation. Good afternoon to everyone who's on this call. I just want to echo what our administrator did say is, we use this funding for resurfacing projects and to rebuild road infrastructure. And outside of the LMIG funding, there's not a whole lot of other funding available to us to coordinate those types of projects. So this is very important to us, and we have two major projects that we have hopes to use LMIG funding for in this next year, and some of them have been on the books for quite a while, and almost as long as I've been here. So we're hoping that amount stays the same so we can move forward with these projects.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions from the commission or the delegation? Seeing none. You're right. I know this is just a brief call, and we have so many priorities and so many issues, and we had hoped today to get to a lot more of them. But just keep in mind, there's going to be an open dialogue as to if any one individual has any issue that we want to address or we want to collaborate on. There's going to be opportunity for that. The first opportunity happens on January 11th. The Madam Administrator has been gracious enough to offer to sponsor a table at the Eggs and Issues Breakfast that's hosted by the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. That means that's a table of 10. She's also offering to get us up there together, or however you can get there the evening before. And if you guys are gracious enough to join us on the evening of the 10th, I'll find a way to provide hopefully dinner. That gives us an opportunity to continue this conversation, or at least hear about some of the other priorities that you guys may have as it relates to the upcoming 2023 Georgia legislative session. So with that being said, we have 2 minutes. I'd like to entertain any questions regarding any of the items that we've discussed, or if you guys have any priorities that you'd like to add to the list for us to consider as we move forward, please provide them.
Mayor Johnson, I would like to state that of the priorities that we have discussed today, there are a few additions that have come in after I presented the original slate to the commission, that I will be presenting those to the commission for formal consensus and approval, and then forwarding those to our local delegation.
That'd be phenomenal. Thank you, Madam Administrator. So are there any questions? Representative Frazier, I see you have your hand up. You have the floor.
Well, actually, it's not a question, Mayor. But I would just like to say I appreciate all these legislative priorities, but we need to pick the ones that we think are doable. There is no way that we'll be able to tackle all these legislative priorities in this one session. So we really need to stay focused on the ones that we think that we can possibly get done this session. There's another session where we can address some of the other issues, but we need to prioritize at least 3 of them. I would say that's normally the magic number when we're dealing up here in the Georgia General Assembly. Just wanted to kind of let you know that.
Thank you so much, Representative, and well noted. Senator Jones, you have the floor. Sir.
Question on the LMAD, because it talked about opposing any changes to the funding structure. Is there proposals out there to do that? Is that what's going on?
Yeah.
The LMAD structure.
Mr. Usry, are you still on the line?
I'm still here. I'm not aware of any changes, but I think the reason this is on the list is because the gas tax was suspended for several months by our governor, to help ease the burden of high gas prices, but we were thinking that suspension of the gas tax for several months may have an effect on this funding source.
Senator Jones, I would also like to add that the Georgia General Assembly suspended the collection of the state motor fuel excise tax in March of 2022. And the governor has extended the suspension on a monthly basis, with the LMEG formula of funds tied to state motor fuel excise tax collections and the suspension of the state motor fuel excise tax since March. This program has been greatly impacted without the support of other general funds. So that's the reason why it's extremely important. So Senator Jones, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions, comments? Well, I certainly appreciate your time today. It means a lot to at least get this conversation started as we enter into this new year. We appreciate each and every one of you and your efforts and to help not only support, but to grow this region. I hope to see many of you on the 11th. So if you have not RSVP, please RSVP to Administrator Dowse so we can get the group together, so we can continue this conversation on the evening of the 10th and enjoy ourselves together with a bunch of our legislative friends from around the state on the 11th. Thank you again, Chairman Newman.
Thank you all.
Newton, thank you again, sir. Great to see all of you.
Great to be with you. Nice productive meeting. I think we've got a good to-do list, and I look forward to working together.
Thank you so much.